Hello YouTube, this is Captain _ playing Kerbal Space Program. Today we're looking at Minmus. That's right, I've set up my new project, which is in fact a base, a surface base on Minmus, because as I said in the last video, my old save file isn't available anymore, or at least I'm not interested in continuing it. So I decided to start up new, this time not on the Mun, which is, I don't know where at the moment, but we're going to start on Minmus. So, I'm inside the new pod that we've got, one of the new pods, this observation thing. It's pretty cool. You got a lot of windows from which you can swap the perspective and have a good look around. It's really cool, really neat. Has some pretty detailed interiors, looks funny, and it's got like practically all the features you'd require for any other pod as well. So, and it looks pretty neat. Good. You can actually attach something to the front there, but that would kind of defeat the purpose of this thing, because it's like just having a good viewport. As you can see, we're orbiting pretty fast, and that is because I've got this thing at 5 times time acceleration. That is because this station is pretty big, or at least it's got lots of parts. As you can see, we've got this weird contraption here, which I'll explain later, and we've got this small thing on the side end. We've got about 3 of those weird ships docked there. Well, I already took the liberty of setting the station up, because that was just boring transport stuff, getting things up here while launching these ships and docking it to the station. That was nothing really interesting. Now, we've got these 3 ships here. One of them is just a crew ship, which also carried this small lander, this one-man lander, which will come into action later, and these 2 transport ships, which are pro-controlled, I just keep them here because they've still got a lot of fuel on them, and fuel is always something that you can need in space, and we've got another one here. So what these things did was just transport the different parts up here. So this part here transported the main station node, so the main module of the station up into space around Minmus. This thing transported, I think, yes, my large payloader, so that's a lot like the lander tug from my Mun base, except this thing is designed differently and is fitted for purpose on Minmus, so we can use it for Minmus and not for the Mun. I suppose it wouldn't work there anyways. So, what else have we got? We've got this other thing which is already docked to the payloader, and that is, well, that's going to be the first part of the surface base that we'll be setting up just like in a few moments or later on. And that's about it. So we still got 3 slightly filled, we got 4 slightly filled tanks, which is good. I'm going to stuff that all into one tank sometime. And then I'll just get rid of all these other ships, because they're just taking up space and the parts, and you'll see why I'm having this run at 5 times simulation speed, because this thing gets pretty laggy. It's like the physics lag from this massive thing here, which consists of quite a few parts and struts, and you can imagine that it creates some kind of physics lag. But it's okay, it's about 10 FPS. We'll just see that we can avoid it as much as possible for your sake. So I've already looked at a good landing zone, just gotta find it. Okay, I guess it's on the dark side right now, so we're gonna have to see that it comes to the bright side. There we go. That's the place. I wanna sort of land this entire base there, because that's a place where we can easily have access to, as well as a large lake thing and the surrounding mountains, which are pretty high, and it's not as well boring. You got a small place here. It's large enough, so you'll have enough space for a base there. Just that you got close access to the mountains and other parts as well. So I think that place is pretty cool. It's not entirely on the plane of my orbit, but that's okay, because this orbit is in fact aligned with Minmus's plane, so it's easier for ships from coming from Kerbin to dock onto this station, because it is difficult to send things up here with my normal well, cruise stage design, which was originally made for the Mun, and it didn't require as much fuel to get to the Mun as it would take to get to Minmus. So that's one problem I'll have to figure out over time to improve the transportation methods. But enough of that, let's just see that we can get our first module underway. Okay, before we do anything else, we're just gonna land the small lander I've set up. Let's quick save and undock, because Bob Kerman is already inside this thing. It's a one-man lander, as I said before, and this thing is gonna be the first I don't know, lander we're gonna drop on Minmus for now. It's gonna just scout out the location and see how the rover reacts to the extremely low gravity, which might become a problem to the design of the base, but we'll see how that all figures out. So let's get a bit of distance to the station so we don't thrust into it when we want to do our deorbit burn. And as you can see, we've got a pretty low FPS, so let's keep that on 5 times time acceleration if not necessary. So what we can do is just set up a maneuver here, do a bit of a retro burn, and make sure that we have it about there. Yeah, that's a good spot. Now I'm setting it up for here because Minmus is going to rotate around pretty quickly. Minmus rotates very quickly compared to other bodies, so we're going to have it about there. We might adjust that later. But that's a good position for right now. So as you can see, it's slowly rotating into position there. See, we have to do it even earlier, because good, and even earlier, because that thing is definitely gonna overshoot if we do it like that, because it still takes time for it to travel downwards. You have to take that into account as well. Okay, so let's see. This thing has got really tiny engines. It's got these 2 very small side engines, but that's really enough to land. I'm not sure if it's enough to get back into orbit, but it should be enough to land, definitely. Okay. So let's see how long the burn would take. 7 seconds, so we'll go real close to the node. So let's check on the map. Yeah, that looks fine. Let's get a bit less of that inclination change, and we should be fine. Okay. How much time have we got left? We've got 10 seconds. We're gonna burn in about 4. Perfect. Great. 1.8 seconds should... yeah, that's okay. Perfect. Now we'll just have to see that we can adjust that to suit our needs. And I guess from now on we can just time accelerate down to the point where action is necessary. Now, landing on Minmus is of course a lot more forgiving than is landing on the Mun. You require a lot less fuel, as you might see from the extremely low gravity. So even like tiny engines like this are really enough for a lander. For this one at least. The larger payloads will require the 909 engines, which I've set up on my payloader. Good. Let's come in even closer there. So, now I haven't tried this very often. To be honest, I haven't been on Minmus very often at all, so this is kind of a new thing for me right now. My last Minmus landing is a long time ago. So let's time accelerate, don't want to waste too much time there. Now it is taking not a lot of time to decelerate here, but okay, we're gonna The way it looks, we're gonna have to kill some more of our horizontal velocity. Perfect. Now we can always see the rocks on the bottom there, which means we should start going into our landing sequence there. This thing is very, very hard to steer because it's so small, and it doesn't really react very good. Which is a weird thing, because usually these small landers react very good to any sort of input that you give them. Now we're still 1.7 kilometers above the ground, which is good. So we can actually allow a bit more of acceleration. We can warp. Let's do physical time warp. Yes, 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 I know. As you can see, we've got a lot of time. So, let's decelerate even more. I've got the feeling that this thing is somehow unbalanced. I'm not sure. Oh, because of that thing. Okay. Yeah, okay, the monopropellant tank is unbalancing this thing, which explains why it's tilting a bit every time I thrust, but it should be fine. So, where's the sun? There. So the shadow's going to be right about there. Yeah, perfect. Now we can just slowly come down for a good landing. Now look how this is wasting a lot of fuel, so it's good for a very soft landing, but you know, it's not necessary if you want to save fuel. And you've got this extreme force from the engines, because these are very powerful compared to the weight of this thing. Perfect. Quick save, standard procedure. Then let's extend the ladder to make sure that just time warp for a sec so this thing stabilizes a bit. Good. This is really looking good. Okay, now what we want to do is decouple this thing, because we got a small buggy down there, and go on EVA. So let's pray that this works. I've had a few problems with this before. Oh, come on. Whoop. As you can see, the steps on Minmus are a lot larger too. Well, it's working. So let's slowly... Yep, that's what I meant. We have to be very slow. As you can see, this thing is already being attracted by the the docking node that I've set up here. And the extremely low gravity makes it very hard to steer this thing and accelerate. So if I accelerate too much, this thing is in fact going to really do a wheelie, and that's not really what it's supposed to do. But it's okay. It can get up to about, I don't know, 2 meters per second or something like that. Well, that's about as fast as it can go without any RCS. I'm not sure. Let's see how fast it can go. Well, it's okay. Now, as you can see, this valley is a lot larger than it may look from space. But it's good, so we got a good space for doing stuff and driving other buggies. Hey, we've got 4.2. Hey, we're going a lot faster than I thought. Now the thing is decelerating from this speed. It's almost impossible, and we're gonna have to use RCS. So I've set up a small RCS tank, and that is only for this purpose, so I can break down. Because this thing would simply tip over if I didn't have this, due to the deceleration, and that is really nothing you want to do. So, this smaller rover is of course very hard to drive in the microgravity of Minmus, but I suppose larger rovers should be easier to steer. And the good thing is this thing has a docking port, and that allows us to do some funny stuff, as you might be able to see from there. I'm going to take this thing back into orbit, or at least I'm going to dock with my lander over there, and then we'll see if we can get back into orbit. Okay, so what we're going to do now is just dock this very small rover back onto the lander, which is also very small. But thanks to the extremely small gravity, you can see that okay, we're gonna get stuck there for a sec. Ugh. See, the docking ports are so powerful that they actually defeat the power of the gravity. And if we leave the seat right now, we're gonna sit up there, and the rover is docked. So let's grab this ladder before we fall off, board the lander, quick save the last time, retract the ladder, and we're ready. Good. So we're going to leave this thing down here as a marker, I'd say, and go right to landing our hub module for the surface base that we'll be constructing over the next few episodes. Now the funny thing is that I just noticed the lag has dropped by, or has, yeah, the FPS have risen, for God's sake, have risen by almost 100%, which is incredible. So we've got about 20 FPS right now. I can't imagine that this small lander made up so much of it, but who knows. So let's go straight ahead and proceed with landing this massive thing here, which might make a bit more sense when we're directly landing it and have it separated from the station. So first thing we're going to do is separate this part. Switch to the appropriate vessel there and thrust away. Okay, now we're going to have to do a little bit of multitask. Oh, for goodness sake, let's not use monopropellant. Wow, that drains it incredibly fast. Good. So let's decouple this node, switch to this thing, and do the same thing. So we're now splitting up into 3 spacecrafts. Let's see if we can, oh, no, let's switch to chase cam first so we don't mess this up. What we're going to have to do is dock this thing back onto the port there so we can use the fuel. We don't want to waste that. This is just the transport stage and is not in any way necessary for the landing procedure of the hub module. So this thing doesn't fly very well, so we'll have to see how good this goes. I'm not doing this very resource efficiently, but we'll see how it goes. As I said before, this is all just being eyeballed. But I figured out a way to fairly accurately dock. Oop. Speaking of the devil. So let's not use caps lock. So there we go. We got contact. Let's just make sure that this thing actually docks. It doesn't just wobble around. Set it up properly. Come on. Perfect. Good, let's quick save one more time, because quick saving is the best you can do in this game. And switch to our payloader, which is now not lagging at all, almost. So Jofsy is the only guy in control of this thing, so I'm using a one-man lander can, because you don't need 2 guys, except you want to have the torque of the can, of the lander can, because the torque of this small capsule is in fact a lot weaker than I'd hoped. But it's okay. So this thing is very big compared to the other lander designs I had before. As you can see, this is the longer strut thing, and then we've got the fuel tanks on the very edge of that, and beyond that we've got another one of those longer beams there, and then we've got the landing legs, and that is just so we can accommodate larger payloads under this thing. And well, this hub is not small itself, it's also fairly large if you look at it. You can see the relation by these normal docking ports. So that thing is okay. And I don't want to have separate landing systems for modules. I want to do this all with the lander tugs, the way I did it on the Mun base, which I think is a better design, in fact. Okay, so let's get to that point. I'm going to set up the orbit and save you that part. Okay, our lander tug is on a course for the surface of Minmus. Got Kerbal in the background there, and we're closing in on the surface. Right there is our other lander, which we'll encounter in just a few moments. So let's turn back on the HUD and see how we can land this thing. Now the thing is, as you can see, the torque of this lander tug is not very high. So as unfortunate as it is, we're going to have to use the RCS, and I'm going to have to turn off the RCS usage of the RCS flow of these tanks, because they are in fact going to serve a different purpose later on, and I don't want to waste that right now. We've got a lot of fuel. It should definitely be enough for the landing, and well, we'll have to see how this goes. So let's time warp to a later location. Good. So now what we're going to have to do is kill some of that horizontal velocity. I'm going to have to look at this on a map though. Okay. We might want to burn down the 180-degree vector so we can get closer to the other lander. Perfect. There we go. Now we just got to stop the rotation on this thing somehow and turn it so it faces the retrograde position. And it would be good if it could do that before we crash into the ground, because I'm afraid that that might happen. Oh well. We're gonna figure this out. So, okay, just coming right down for the landing, the very last moments, and we've still got about half of our fuel, which is more than perfect, because as you know, landing is always the most fuel consuming part. Perfect, so let's turn off ASAS, and we've got this thing landed. Now, it was actually a pure dumb luck that the landing legs of these two things were almost perfectly aligned, and we didn't have to land on the lower landing legs, because that would have been very unstable, considering that the weight of these liquid fuel tanks would be weighing down on one docking port and very centered landing legs. So we've got this thing fairly close to the other lander. That's kind of okay. We can later on adjust that. But let's see that we can undock this thing and put the lander aside. Quick save before anything bad happens, as always. And now carefully carefully. Nope, what did I do? Try doing this with RCS. Okay, we might have to do a bit more. Yeah, this is kind of the nitty-gritty bits of it, but it's okay. It's working a lot better than I'd anticipated. So, and we've got quite a lot of fuel for maneuvering, which is also good, considering that we might want to move stuff around on the surface. Good. Very good. Now you can just compare the dimensions of these landers and the small one over there, if you just take a look at how small a Kerbal is compared to them. Let's quick save one last time and go on EVA. There we go, and let go. You can see this thing is really big because it's designed to just be able to transport things that are fairly big, just like this hub module, which is now going to mark the center of our new Minmus base. It's a bit wobbly, so if I stand right next to it, you can see that it's jittering a bit, but it's fine. And docking rovers and stuff should be okay. And yeah, this thing in the middle is going to be a fuel tank, an RCS fuel tank for rovers that I'm going to send up in another episode, perhaps even the next one. But that's all that I wanted to show for today. So, as always, I really hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you want to see more of my KSP videos, you might even want to subscribe to my channel, because I'll definitely be working on this Minmus surface base in the future. Well, thanks for watching, see you next time.